It's all about buying back your time, so you, number one, can make more money, but number two, also improve your enjoyment of life. So welcome back to this episode of Book Club, where we're reviewing Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time book. In this video, you're going to learn how to go from a chaotic schedule with no time to someone that can actually do the things that they want, when they want, and relax. By the way, if you're new here, we've got a goal of reaching over 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe. So the first main idea of the book is all about the buyback principle. Conclusively, this means that 25% of your hourly wage that you make, you should outsource if you can. So I'll give you an example of how the buyback principle works. So you take your yearly income, let's just say for this example, it's 100 grand divided by 2,000, right? Equals $50. So $50 an hour. Why 2,000? That's an average 40-hour work week. So let's just assume that you're doing 40 hours and you get $50 an hour is your hourly wage, and then you go times 25%. So anything $12.50 or under per hour, outsource it immediately if you can. So the buyback principle will help you understand when you should hire a virtual assistant, when you should hire a cleaner, a chef, etc., etc. And then for this example, let's say you go from 100K to 200K a year in income. Now your buyback rate goes from $12.50 an hour to $25. So anything under $25 an hour, outsource it because you're making $100. When you do this, if you're on $100 an hour, you outsource a task you don't want to do to someone that does it better for $25 an hour. In that hour, you get the job done and you net $75. If you couldn't tell already, the main idea of this book is to outsource as much as you can. The less you have on your plate, the more time that you have for the biggest ROI task in your business. So you're not doing all of the admin. You're not running to the post office, running the errands. You're not cooking, you're not cleaning. If for your business, there might be content. So no one else can do the content except you. So you do that and outsource as much other work as you can. Now, the second main idea of this book is all about hiring a personal assistant. I've actually just hired a VA last week. Right now, working on some systems to get up in place, just so it's a plug and play, streamlined process with no mistakes. Now, in my case, what will my virtual assistant do? Just so you have an understanding of what they can possibly do for you. So mine will schedule all of my content. Mine will clean up my inbox and all of my emails and manage that. They will also manage my calendar and appointments. They'll also do all my sales admin, and they'll also do all the day before and morning of messages to my prospects and my sales clients. So when they control your email inbox, that means that anywhere from 80 to 90% of the emails that come through, your virtual assistant organizes it, actions it, so you don't have to waste time on the public to-do list being an email. To correctly label your email, Dan recommends a certain structure to label your emails. I'll put it up on screen now. So first of all, we've got your name. So these are the emails that I would respond to. So that's the first label. The second is to respond. So these are the emails that my assistant hasn't responded to yet. The third one is review. These are the emails that my assistant wants to give the final thumbs up before hitting send. The fourth one is responded. These are the emails that my assistant responded to. The fifth one is called waiting on. These are the emails that require actions from others to be moved forward. The sixth is the receipts and financials. That's an obvious one. And the seventh is the newsletters. So these are the things that I want to read and review. So for example, James Clear's email newsletter. Luke Belmer, I like reading his email. So you can obviously tweak these labels to your situation, your business, your job, etc. But that's a rough outline. Dan also teaches something called the 1-3-1 rule. This is when you're training staff members, and in this case, your virtual assistant. It's a 3-step process. If a problem occurs, number one, the individual needs to outline the problem exactly and be specific with the thing that needs to be solved. The second step is providing 3 viable solutions. The third step is to present the problem and the 3 viable solutions to the CEO. In this case, my assistant will be presenting it to me. And then I choose the one that I deem is the best fit to be approved. I will also get their recommendation in there, what they think would be the best move. What this mental model does, it not only makes it easier on my end because I know they've weighed up different options, but 9 times out of 10, when an employee or someone you're working with goes through that framework, when they're up to stage 2, selecting the 3 viable solutions, they will often solve the task there because they will come up with all of the possible scenarios or all of the possible solutions and pick the one that's the best there. So they don't even need your help at the end of the day. That's just a basic framework. Another point with your assistant, like I touched on earlier, is all about building out systems. So you want to build out an if this, then do that protocol. There are a few ways to create systems, but you can just try and go as simple as a Google Doc, and you can have a Loom video of you going through the task. You could do a school.com portal to make it nice and pretty and organized. You can do reoccurring tasks on their calendar that they have to decline once they've done it, so you can see when they've done it. And you can even just build them a checklist to do in a Google Doc. Right, now on to the next main point. It's all about maximizing and managing your time via your calendar. If you've watched this channel before, you know that I speak about calendar time blocking. If you haven't seen anything, in a nutshell, you want to have your full day from A to Z, every waking hour, even your sleep, in your calendar time block, so you know what you're doing and when you're doing it. Then once the day's finished, you want to go back through your calendar, change the time. So you've set out the map for the day, and let me give you an example. You've got 2 hours of deep work in this block. Let's say you only did an hour and a half. You want to edit the calendar to an hour and a half and leave that white space. So you do that for the full day, and then you can analyze why you've wasted time and prevent that from happening for the following day. If you're wasting time on consistent things, that's when you can look to systemize and outsource it so it doesn't happen again. Once this has become a habitual routine, then every Sunday you want to review your calendar again, see where the leakages are, recognize the highest ROI task still, and then coming into the next week, you want to strategize to make sure those leakages don't happen and to make sure you're prioritizing the biggest needle moving task in your business or in your work. Dan said you need to continuously audit your time and constantly be reiterating and checking where the leakages are and systemizing and then outsourcing them as much as possible so you're always on target. Another cool thing I learned from the book is about the 3 natural stages of an entrepreneur. The first stage is where they're trading time for money. This results in income. The second stage is now where they're exchanging money for time, and that equals and creates leverage. Now the third trade is trading money for money, which then equates into total freedom. That's a nice mental model to review and consistently see where you're sitting at on the natural progression of an entrepreneur. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at Jax Heaton. Hit subscribe for more videos like this. Drop a comment as well, and I'll see you guys on the next one.